morning, welcome to CATEX TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. Today is Wednesday, March 9th, 2016. If you want to follow us on Twitter, please go to CATEX TV. A court in Japan has ordered one of only 2 nuclear power plants that are now operating in Japan to shut down, citing insufficient safety measures put into place after the meltdown at the Fukushima power plant after the big earthquake 5 years ago. The plant that's been ordered to shut down is the Takahama nuclear power plant. It's been back online for only 2 months. The Japanese government has been struggling to get the nuclear industry back online. Energy costs in Japan have risen by 20% as a result of the total shutdown. Prime Minister Abe has seen a mass exodus of manufacturing because of high electricity costs. The courts in the past have enjoined idle plants from being put back into service, but the decision that came out this morning is the first time that a court has actually shut down a plant that went back into service. The court said that the restart should not have happened. It was responding to a request from an injunction filed by local residents who said that the plant's owner had underestimated the size of earthquakes that could strike in the area and had not made adequately detailed plans to evacuate residents in case of an incident. Government safety regulators said that the company had met Japan's new safety guidelines, which address such issues, but the court ruled for the plaintiff, saying that there were, quote, points of concern in accident prevention, emergency response plans, and the formulation of earthquake models. Now we have Japanese courts getting involved in analyzing modeling. An explosion in Seattle rocked the neighborhood at about 1:45 a.m. Pacific time this morning, injuring 9 firemen, forced evacuations in heavily damaged buildings. The blast occurred in the city's Greenwood section after firefighters responded to reports of a natural gas leak. About 40 minutes after they arrived, a huge explosion occurred. 9 firefighters were rushed to the hospital. Pictures are showing collapsed buildings as well as windows shattered in surrounding structures, including plate glass windows in businesses relatively far away. The government of Bangladesh is saying that it's going to sue the Federal Reserve Bank of New York for failing to prevent $100 million from being stolen by Chinese hackers from a reserve account on deposit in the Federal Reserve Bank for Bangladesh's central bank. Bangladeshi government accuses Chinese hackers of stealing the money from its foreign exchange account and transferring it to accounts in the Philippines. The finance minister said that his government would launch a lawsuit against the Federal Reserve Bank, which denied responsibility over the lost funds. The finance minister said, "We've heard that the Federal Reserve Bank of New York has completely denied their responsibility. They don't have any right. Of course, we'll file a case against them. We have kept the money with them. They are responsible." The Federal Reserve denied all claims of any theft. An economist, Mamoun Rashid, who previously headed Citibank in Bangladesh, said he was sure that the country would be able to recover the full amount. He said Bangladesh is a client of the Federal Reserve Bank. They must take the responsibility for this incident. Aon, the big broker, is reporting that economic losses caused by catastrophe and weather events in the United States during the month of February are expected to surpass $1 billion, while the insurance and reinsurance industry will deal with losses well into the hundreds of millions of dollars. Severe thunderstorms resulted in the highest number of February tornadoes in the U.S. since 2008. Damage as a result of the tornadoes were recorded in the plains, the Midwest, Southeast, Mid-Atlantic, and Northeast. Virginia saw its strongest February tornado on record. Insurance losses are set to reach well into the hundreds of millions of dollars, the company said, no doubt raising the prospect of some losses accumulating on aggregate reinsurance and possibly touching insurance-linked security participation. The rest of the world saw a fair amount of cat and weather loss activity as well, the most significant being the strongest tropical cyclone on record for the southern hemisphere when tropical cyclone Winston struck the island of Fiji. That loss has caused economic losses of approximately 10% of the gross domestic product of the island. Michigan taxpayers are up in arms because they now have received a request from the governor's office for an additional $2.7 million in funds to be made available for legal fees to defend the governor against critics and lawsuits emanating from the water crisis in Flint, Michigan. Flint has been reeling after residents discovered brown water flowing from their taps in 2014. The local government ignored complaints until reports emerged saying the water was contaminated with dangerously high levels of lead. The failed response has prompted a severe backlash against Michigan Governor Rick Snyder and has actually become an issue in the U.S. presidential campaign. State lawmakers attacked the new budget proposal and called the increases outrageous and, quote, a kick in the teeth to taxpayers already hurting from drinking toxic water. Powerful storms dumped heavy rain on parts of Texas, Arkansas, and Oklahoma yesterday, causing flooding that led to a rescue of students from a school bus, property damage from tornadoes, as well as the death of one man. By the time the slow-moving storm leaves Texas and Oklahoma, approximately at midday today, they estimate that possibly as much as 10 inches of rain could be dumped in some areas. A number of EF1 tornadoes, the weakest type, touched down Monday and Tuesday morning in areas near Fort Worth, Texas. The Dallas-based utility Encore at one point reported that 40,000 homes were without power. Here's an interesting story. Buckingham Palace has launched an official complaint with Britain's press watchdog earlier today over a newspaper report that Queen Elizabeth backs a British exit from the European Union. The palace says the monarch has remained politically neutral throughout her entire 63-year reign. Under the front page headline, Queen backs Brexit, the Sun newspaper quoted unidentified sources as saying that the Queen had made her opposition to British membership of the EU clear on at least 2 occasions. The Sun is owned by Rupert Murdoch's News Corporation, said the Queen had told then Deputy Prime Minister Nick Clegg at Windsor Castle in a lunch 5 years ago that the EU was heading in the wrong direction. Clegg called the report nonsense. He said, I have no recollection of this happening, and it's not the sort of thing I would forget. The newspaper, which is Britain's best-selling daily newspaper, has repeatedly criticized Britain's EU membership, also said the Queen had told lawmakers in separate meetings that she did not understand Europe. The newspaper said that it stands by its story, which is provided by a very credible source. Yesterday,